Businessman Duncan Williams, wishing to cheat a longtime acquaintance, offers Jack Brain $1 million in exchange for an immortal soul. When Jack dies of liver failure, Duncan is given the opportunity to collect valuable items. But not in the form he originally intended. I'll give you 1 million benefits from a chilling and haunting climactic sequence that offsets the predictable premise on which it is based. Episode pros and cons. A bit cliched, but various traditional horror devices, thunder, flashing light bulbs, creepy zombie makeup, etc. add to Duncan and Jack's ghostly encounters. Increase suspense in between. When twirling his metaphorical mustache, relishing any evil deeds committed in the name of business, the character of Duncan comes across as a Tales from the Darkside. It'll give you a millionaire dimensional antagonist. The jovial manner exemplified by when an otherwise talented character actor further accentuates the cartoonish nature of Duncan, who chuckles his way through horror stories as if competing for Villain of the Year. Analysis of the episode. By delivering a dark twist on the concept first employed in A Christmas Carol, i.e. the spirit of a former businessman returning from the grave to haunt his miserly companion, I'll Give You 1 Million may appeal to enthusiasts of the horror genre. Nevertheless, it should be noted that Mark Duran's narrative forgoes a redemption arc in favor of malevolent themes, a creative choice that, while effective from a technical standpoint. The synopsis of the episode is as follows. Millionaire Duncan Williams offers his longtime friend Jack Blaine in a cat-and-mouse game by offering Jack $1 million for his mortal soul. The review. Tales from the Darkside, the second official episode of Romero's TV series, is reasonably entertaining, but not too surprising. This is essentially a two-character play to the end, with two elderly gentlemen engaging in a sophisticated game of cat and mouse. The lovable Keenan Wynn and the solid George Petrie are Duncan Williams and Jack Blaine, respectively, a couple of unrepentant snobbish businessmen with a habit of gambling. One day, Duncan demands $1 million to sell Jack's immortal soul. Jack doesn't take this very seriously as he is not a believer and doesn't believe much in the concept of the soul. However, when he learns that he is dying, he changes his mind and asks Duncan to cancel his contract. Duncan, who is so greedy and sobbing badly, offers Jack another $1 million so that he can forget everything, to which he is delighted. However, both Duncan and Jack are unaware that their counterparts are keenly interested in their shady deal and are up to the wrong. This person is, so to speak, a person whose wishes cannot be denied. It's really cool to see the words, "paid in full," burned into a man's skin. All in all, a memorable but good episode. On Thursday night, Duncan Williams decides to test his friend Jack Blaine's faith by offering $1 million for eternal souls. Jack is hesitant, but is eventually persuaded by Duncan to sell his soul. Duncan tells him that if Jack dies of unnatural causes, as he did, Jack will be out of money and in the best possible legal interest. There was a provision to receive both. When Jack learns he will soon have cancer and has about a month to live, he behaves badly. Duncan is skeptical and refuses to accept Jack's offer to return his money and cancel his contract. Duncan only had second thoughts when offered an additional $1 million. But at this point it's too late. Jack dies, leaving Duncan with a worthless contract. Or is it? Jack returns from the grave in ghostly form and tries to convince Duncan to accept the soul, but not quite. Duncan suffers a heart attack after meeting a friend and is lying dying in bed when a well-dressed man appears in the room. The man cryptically talks about the details of the contract, then throws the contract back. The paper goes up in flames. It is a demon and demands a reward for the souls of these two evil men. Before returning, he glared at the body of Duncan Williams, with the 3 burning words, "Paid in full," written on his chest. Great work in the series with great acting from Keenan Wynn and George Petrie. The highlight is Brad Fisher acting in the most ruthless and evil approach I've ever seen, even though it doesn't look like it. You fear him not because of his appearance, but because of his pure evil. He nearly amused their little game, but he didn't join until they were ruined by negotiating unimaginably high stakes. The plot of the episode is as follows. Act 1. Duncan Williams and Jack Blaine are drinking cognac and talking in the car. Jack praises Duncan for ruining people. Jack wants to know if Duncan makes a deal with him. They talk about how ruthless they are. Duncan tells Jack that he has a better proposal and that he will surprise him later that night. While the boys are playing billiards, Duncan offers Jack $1 million for the right to an eternal soul. Jack seems surprised and thinks Duncan is crazy. They keep betting thousands of dollars on his single pool throw. Jack admits he doesn't believe in souls. Duncan accuses Jack of retiring, but Jack says he will not. Duncan then wonders why a non-believer might have a problem selling souls that he thinks doesn't exist. For some reason, Jack keeps dodging the topic, but Duncan keeps pushing. Duncan said something about Jack's liver, and he might stick one foot in the grave and live. Duncan claims he is just trying to get the point across, but Jack feels that Duncan is trying to trick him in some way. Jack finally agrees, and Duncan says he plans to close the deal on Friday. Act 2. Jack stops by Duncan's office on Friday. Duncan is wondering if he wants to play billiards in front of the shop. Jack declined Duncan, saying he was not feeling well and just wanted to get to work. All rights to souls return to Duncan within 24 hours of death. If the purchaser dies before the soul is extracted, the contract is void. The only exception is if the buyer dies wrongfully. $1 million must be repaid with interest. Duncan claims that Jack may have been involved in murders before, so he's only doing it to protect himself. They sign the contract and Jack says this is the easiest million he's ever made. Jack's car stops in front of Duncan's house and they talk. Jack has been to a doctor, but he is told he has 2 months left to live. Jack's liver is bad. Duncan offers him a drink anyway. Jack wants to forget his soul contract, but he insists he doesn't believe in souls. Duncan agrees, hoping to get his $1 million back. Duncan is getting a telegram from Jack in his bedroom. Jack offers his original $1 million plus another $1 million in exchange for his own soul. Duncan admits it was the funniest way he ever made $1 million. Duncan falls asleep at his desk and is awakened by the wind blowing through the window. He is surprised that the window is closed. He tried to call Jack, but the call didn't go through. Duncan brings his contract into his bedroom and places it on the bedside table. Jack's housekeeper called and said he had some bad news. Duncan wants to talk to Jack, but the maid tells Duncan that Jack died that morning. Act 3. The maid tells Duncan that the telegram will only be sent after Jack's death and that the contract has ended for Jack. With 24 hours gone, Duncan is now the official owner of the soul and can no longer get the $1 million. Duncan heard a noise and thought there was a tramp in the house. After the phone line went down, he grabbed a gun and searched the house. Duncan opens the door, and Jack's corpse-like ghost stands in front of him with a vial of green substance. Jack told Duncan that the soul was his and that Duncan must receive it. He claims that he will come and that if Duncan doesn't take the soul, he will get the soul because possession is 9/10 of the law. Duncan tries to burn the contract, but the lighter doesn't work. Duncan has a heart attack and dies.